Hi everyone, it's Jenny here at Kingsway Indoor Stadium. Hey kids, I've got something really cool for you to try out today. Now, Mother's Day is coming up soon. Shh, don't say it too loud, okay? Last week, we put something out on Kingsway Indoor Stadium for you to do your own card for Mum. You could print it out and colour it in. So this week, I thought we'd have a little go, if you're up for it, at making some lovely tissue paper flowers for Mum. So you can make her own very special paper flower bouquet for Mother's Day to go with the card that you made her last week. So I hope that sounds pretty cool. I'm going to show you how to do that. All you're going to need is a serviette or a napkin, okay? That's what I made this one out of. It's pretty cool, isn't it? All right, so a serviette or a napkin, okay? If you haven't got those, but you've got some tissue paper, you can even use coloured tissue paper for this one, all right? But a napkin's actually going to be easier, and you probably will have that at home. You also need a staple gun. Here's one I made earlier. And you also need a pair of scissors, all right? Now, you may need to get an adult to help you with the scissors. That's absolutely fine, okay? You don't need to do a lot with them. Just make sure that you use them safely. Okay, all righty. So I'm going to take you through this, and we're going to make a whole bouquet of paper flowers. I'm going to show you how to do one, and we'll go from there. All right, guys? All right, guys, so we've got our napkin or our serviette here, and what we're going to do is open it out. So unfold it, and a napkin is normally made of 2 or 3 individual sheets. This one is made of 2, and it's sort of sealed a little bit around the edge. So we want to try and separate it. So I'm just going to gently pull those 2 layers apart and work it to the edges. Can you see that happening? It's sort of pulling apart at the edges, and then I'm just going to work around the edge and separate it. Let's see if I can keep that on the screen for you while I do it. So we separate the edges, so we end up with the 2 sheets of the serviette or the napkin, okay, whatever you want to call it. I'm from England, we're a bit posh, we called it a serviette over there. Alrighty. So once we've separated them, we lay the 2 parts back down together, trying to keep them as together as possible. And this is where you might need to ask an adult for help, okay? So we've got our 2 sheets and it's open, and we're going to cut along the fold lines, okay? So we're going to cut them into the 4 squares that you see here, okay? And I'm a little bit shaky. It doesn't have to be precise. All right, so we cut down the middle, and then we turn that around and we cut down the middle again. And as I say, it doesn't matter if you're a little bit shaky, and if you need to get an adult to do this for you, then go for your life. And I'm going to take this one and cut down the middle again. So what we end up with is our 4 separate squares cut from the 1 napkin, and we've got 2 layers to each square, okay? So now what we're going to do is lay those on top of each other. Hope you can see this okay. And so we lay them on top of one another, and we actually end up with 8 layers of the tissue paper, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to concertina fold. So we're going to take the edges and fold it away from us, and then flip it over and fold it back towards us. So it's called a concertina fold, and you keep going, flip it over, fold it away, flip it over, and fold it back again. And you should end up with about 7 or 8 of these folds as you go. It's a little bit tricky. We'll get there. Okay, so then what we end up with is this sort of long, skinny rectangle of the tissue paper, the napkin that's folded. Now this is where our staple gun comes in. So we're going to find roughly in the middle of the tissue fold there. We're going to get our staple gun. And let me just see if I'm roughly in the middle. I'm going to staple that in for us. Okay, so now it's actually fixed. And then we start to have a little bit of fun, and we separate the folds. So we're going to pull it apart a little bit. And we start to, oh, actually, I forgot to do something. If you want to shape the petals, you can. So if you don't want to just have this end on them, you can actually use your scissors or get somebody else to do it for you to actually make a shape. So I'm going to cut a V shape at the end of mine here. Okay, get rid of that rubbish. So I've ended up with a V shape at the end. Oop, little tricky bit there. And then I'm going to do the other end as well. So you can do that if you want to. And you could try doing different shapes on the end of your rectangle of tissue. You could try doing a rounded, or you could do fringes, like little cuts into it, okay? And then you're gonna turn it around, open it up, and you're gonna start to separate the layers. So it's a little bit tricky. You can start maybe from the bottom. And remember that each napkin, you had 2 layers. So you pull it apart and separate and just work around, and then do the next layer. So you see what starts to happen is you start to get that look like this one that I made earlier, okay? And again, you pull it apart and you keep going until you've done all of one side, and then you do the other side, okay? So it does take a little bit of time to do this, so I'll try and do it as quickly as I can. And so there we have, not the most perfect job, but it gives you an idea. There's one side of your paper flower complete, and then you just do the other side, and you end up with your lovely tissue paper flower, which I think is very, very cute and very, very cool. And you could put a pipe cleaner through, maybe get somebody to help you do that, so you can make a stem and you could make a bouquet for your mum. Okay, and if you don't have napkins but you have tissue paper, like I mentioned earlier, so if you have some sort of coloured tissue, then you could cut squares from your coloured tissue. You need about 8 squares in total, and you could do the same thing, okay? So there you go. I'm going to keep going with this one, and why not have a go? You've got a couple of weeks until it's Mother's Day, so you've got plenty of time to make a big bouquet of flowers for Mum, and I'm sure she'll absolutely love it. And don't forget also that if you go back to last week on the Facebook page, Kingsway Indoor Stadium, then we had our print out colouring cards as well. And it's a good job I'm about to stop now, because the lawnmower has just started up outside the window. So have fun with that, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.